Why does your back always hurt? Oh, I don't know. Oh, this is precarious. I suppose at this point you can tell where this is going, and definitely nowhere good, but I don't know. Where there's a will, there's a way. I don't know if this is a will or a way, but it's probably going to work. You can see I'm doing great here, but the water, or the oil rather, might as well be water, is basically as thin as water. So this is some super dystopia engineering here. It's like, what can you make out of the junk you have laying around? God dang. Helps if you hit the hull of the carb. Wishful thinking that'll do something here, but you just never know. Maybe choke. Howdy my friends, welcome to the channel today. I'm Luke, Thunderhead289 here on YouTube. In this video today, well, I've made a few kind of silly purchases here in the last month, but today we're going to take a look at this Ford tractor. I bought it just for the belly mower. I mean, this thing was super cheap. Basically, I bought a belly mower for a really good price, and there was a tractor attached to it. Now it's sat forever out in the rain. The exhaust was open at the time, so could be pretty questionable, but if we can get it working, hey, you know, it's basically a free tractor attached to a really cheap belly mower, and I have no complaints. If not, I'll put it on my 9N and just use it like that. But fingers crossed, we got a tractor out of the deal. We'll see. I've known these to be fairly resilient, so at the moment, I'm holding out hope. So taking a look at this thing here before I get on to destroying it to try to make it run, you see here the Woods belly mower, and it's hard to see at what point, you know, what's original and what's been cobble fabbed together over the years. Pretty old unit altogether. This particular tractor is like a 42 to 48 model. Hard to say what the exact year is, but kind of interesting because, you know, during that era, everything went to the war effort. So if that's the case, you know, kind of a neat piece here. But you see the Woods mower, nothing too special, comes off the PTO with a big old pulley, goes down and does some Pythagoras crazy angle stuff to run the mower. And then we have a little up and down action from the 3-point setup here on the tractor. And it's got some weird auxiliary stuff that someone put on at one point. Hard to say if any of that works because, like I said, it's sat out in the rain with open exhaust. So with that, I'm going to get to pulling the hood. But first, maybe let's just see if the engine will actually spin over before we get too crazy. It might be junk and I might be wasting my time. So let's hit that thing with a jump pack and see what happens. All right, got our jump pack here. It's pretty dead, but should be good enough. These old 9N tractors, they're all like a 6-volt system, and 9N, 2N, 8N, whatever, up until a certain point. Most of them being 6-volt originally. Some of them have been converted, and we're probably going to convert this one today. But my 9N that I use is a 6-volt system. I use it in the winter, and you know, in the winter, a 6-volt system cranks pretty slow. Now, I use it to move snow around, and so, you know, you kind of need it to start when it's -20 out here in Iowa. And one trick you can do to these old rigs, if they're still 6-volt, is you can hit the starter momentarily with a 12-volt jump pack. Now, as long as you're going right to the starter, you're not hitting the button, you're not connecting that 12-volt system to the rest of the 6-volt system, and you're not going to destroy anything. So you can kind of do a number like this. I want to make sure I'm in neutral, so I'll go through the garage door. Wishful thinking, assuming it'll spin over, but give it a watt forward here. So we're grounded to the frame, touching right to the post, bypassing the original system. And it does indeed crank over. There's some hope, although that sounded fairly awful. So I'm sure we're gonna find some fun stuff. Check that out. It's got either a Sherman overdrive, maybe, hello, there we go, Sherman overdrive or a high-low. Hopefully we get a chance to find out what this is. Pretty nice aftermarket unit back in the day. Now normally at this point, you know, I'd throw a little bit of fuel down the carb and see if the thing would start. But in this case, I do know that several years back, the owner of this tractor that I got it from put a battery in and actually tried to start the thing up. And I asked him if it was indeed a 12-volt battery, and he said it was. So now I'm just working out the assumption that the ignition is completely fried in this tractor. And so I'm going to try a little bit of reverse psychology. That if I went through all the effort to remove the hood, you know, there's a high probability that we'll actually run without having to replace everything. Where if I leave the hood on, it definitely won't work and I'll have to remove the hood anyway. So I just thought, the heck with it. Seems like either way we got to remove the hood. Maybe. Probably should drain the gas tank. Why does your back always hurt? Oh, I don't know. Oh, this is precarious. Clearly always helps to have a buddy. I'm glad this thing isn't nice, because I'd feel really bad about probably everything that's about to happen to it. This is going to be a ram jam fest. Oh, back where you came from. At least that was easy. All right, round two here, boss. Oh, I didn't think where I was going to put it. Now, I could be extremely lucky with this thing, which is exceptionally rare, where the points are corroded, and when someone put a 12-volt battery in, it was never able to fry the coil because it never completed a connection. That would be stupendous, but we won't hold out too much hope, but there is a chance. One of these old flathead style distributors and coils mounted up on the front of the engine. Real nice and inaccessible like you want. The plug wires are absolutely petrified. One of those old school see-through styles. Oh, yeah, we're just gonna act like we didn't see that. We'll clean up the points here, spray something down the throat and see what happens. Why don't we just spray something down the throat right now? And I have zero hope, but you know, we'll just see. Give it a little spritz if we can hit the hole. All right, key on. Hard to say if the rest of that key assembly even works. See if we can hit it here. Oh, and nothing, like we knew would happen. Okay, let's dig into this thing. So it's always a good idea to work linearly through a system. So I just want to make sure with that rat's nest wiring we are getting power to the coil. You know, that would stop us pretty quick. So, you know, we have our battery probed. Our key is on. We're going to touch the post on our coil and we should see 6 volts, and we do. So we know we're at least getting power to this point. We could pop a plug and see if we have spark, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to be looking too good, because if you take a look right down through here, we have a bunch of coil cheese coming down from the coil, like it went through the incinerator 1000, probably with the 12-volt system, and it's probably clapped. Not much holds these old Ford ignition coils in here, so just a little over center deal, and out she goes. So they're pretty precarious to install, where you got to get this button like perfectly lined up. It's always quite a trip, but you can see, yeah, I think she's done. Getting down to the points here so we can clean everything up. You know, it's kind of a weird progression. of how to do all this, but in this case, I don't want to spend any money if this tractor is completely clapped. You know, I have a good functional tractor. I don't necessarily need two of them. I would take two if I could get two pretty easily, but if internally it's pretty rough, you know, so we're just trying to get to the point where we can get it to pop off and see what we have or don't have. I lied to you guys here. I just decided to take the whole distributor out as it's 2 bolts, and I've never taken it out of my own 9N, so I thought, well, I'll love lost here messing with this one. And yeah, the points are definitely corroded beyond belief, so even if we had a good coil, it wouldn't have ran. All right, minimal effort here. Just sticking some sandpaper between the points and cleaning it up. Obviously it was way corroded after sitting forever. So there's a lot of mystique that surrounds points, and really they're not as complex as everyone likes to think they are. All they're doing is interrupting a ground, and when the coil is energized, when that ground to the coil is interrupted, it'll discharge a spark, or, well, in this case, this coil discharged itself. But, you know, to test them here, all we're doing is we're off of the post. If you're not sure where that's at, you know, it's kind of where the condenser here, which is this long cylindrical capacitor, is attached, and then we're just grounded to the distributor body. So we're on ohms. We got the mode on, so it'll just sound off when we make connection here. So if we did everything right, we can do this with one hand. There we go. So right now we're making connection. We rotate the shaft a little bit, the points moved, and now with the gap open, we're not making connection. So the big thing happens when this corrodes up, it will no longer make connection again, and that's a problem. So if the points are closed and you're reading ohms or you're sounding off here, you're in good shape. So we're at least this far. All right, so I got this all kind of rigged up here for fun. Our jump pack is going to be our battery. We're hooked to the positive side of an automotive ignition coil. Now our ground here is going to simulate our chassis ground, so we're hooked up to the body of the distributor very poorly, but we're hooked up. Our spark plug is effectively grounded. Our negative of the coil is coming up to the points. So basically the points again are breaking the connection from here to the coil. You can see our spark plug is sparking there. We're looking pretty good. This kind of gives me a really bad idea. I suppose at this point you can tell where this is going, and definitely nowhere good, but I don't know. Where there's a will, there's a way. I don't know if this is a will or a way, but it's probably going to work. Now, in the same sense that this distributor is highly inconvenient because it's located back here in the block behind the radiator and fan, there is some convenience in that it's an offset deal here on the distributor. It's offset on the engine, so there's really only one way it can go on. Now, so the longer you look, the worse it gets, okay? So we don't have any coil up here anymore. We drilled through to catch this post with our coil wire. We're going up here to our ignition coil. We have a wire that's tied onto the points down there coming up to the negative of our automotive ignition coil. We have our 12 volt lead going up here to now a 12 volt battery, and I went down here and unhooked this auxiliary lead so that basically when you hit the starter switch, it's only passing 12 volts to the starter and not the rest of the original system, even though I'm sure the generator is clapped from someone putting a 12 volt battery in here before. So with that, we'll hook our ignition up, hit it with some starting fluid, and just see what we have here for an engine. I'm not super optimistic, but at this point I haven't spent any extra money except what I spent in buying the Woods deck here, belly mower, and so no love lost either way. This is some super dystopia engineering here. It's like, what can you make out of the junk you have laying around? God dang. Helps if you hit the hull of the carb. Wishful thinking that'll do something here, but you just never know. Maybe choke. Got the cap on it. Did something. All right. Holy cow. That's amazing. That must have been all that old fuel that was still in the line and down the carb. Wow. That worked too good. Well, I guess file that one in your redneck handbook if you have a 9N, 2N, 8N, whatever. I guess you can do all that menagerie and make one run. By principle, I mean, it made sense, so I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, but I don't know. It's just fun to just make stuff out of garbage and just see what happens. But dang, I mean, that thing ran good, didn't smoke at all. I think we got a good runner. Oil pressure gauge read nothing, but, you know, questionable if that thing works or not. So I think, I don't know, I kind of want to rig up a gas tank and go try the mower here and just see what happens. I didn't hear any clatters, so, you know, against my better judgment, normally I'd change the oil, which looks and all that first, but I don't know. I just want to try it. Wouldn't you? I mean, wouldn't you? So we got a rag zip tied over the intake of the carb. Obviously we got a fuel tank topped off the coolant. I felt bad about the ignition system since it worked so good. I did add kind of a very questionable ballast resistor in here. So, you know, at least it's under correct principles now and not going to burn up the points in the first, I don't know, hour or so. We have a gas tank ratchet strapped way back here, right behind where you're sitting for extra safety. So hopefully that gravity feeds okay, but I don't think it's going to have any problems. And with that, I think we're ready to take our maiden voyage. I don't know if we should or not, but we're going to. Just like factory. Uh-oh. I don't know if I want to spray my rig with starting fluid here, so give it a good what for. Not too bad. Losing pieces of our belt pretty fast. Sounds like it could use some carb tuning. Clearly there was a fair amount of water in the exhaust. You can see it dripping out here. Exhaust looks clean though. Not too bad. Runs okay. I'm a little concerned about this oil pressure. I found another gauge I had laying around and we're still not making any pressure. So it sounds good and quiet, and I know no one's changed oil in a long time, so you know, might have to postpone our maiden voyage. At least let's see if it goes into gear. Moves. Sure does. Oh man, I really want to drive it, but it'd be against my better judgment. You see the water dripping out of the exhaust. Got reined in pretty good, I know. But it does run. It does go into gear. Not too bad. We'll shut it down and change the oil. as fun as that is, you know, I'd really like to get the oil out of it and check everything over. If we had oil pressure, I might go for a drive, but seeing as how we don't, you know, we've come this far, I'd hate to hurt the thing because it seems like it wants to run and it wants to live. And it looks like it would like to do some good work, and it's set up for it, so it'd be a real shame to destroy the engine now. You can see I'm doing great here, but the water, or the oil rather, might as well be water, is basically as thin as water. So not surprised we didn't have any oil pressure. Probably had a lot of gasoline in it from cranking with the choke, or it's just hard to say, you know. A lot of folks like to put like 530 and stuff, or 30 weight, I don't know, you know. All right, so moment of truth here. We put some good old Rotella 1540 in it, and this is kind of the defining moment. If it doesn't make any oil pressure, you know, that's not good. We got a new oil pressure gauge in it and all that, and it's like, well, you know, then I guess we just have a belly mower, because I really don't want to rebuild this. I probably would, but I don't want to. So let's cross our fingers here, and then oil change did the trick. That oil that was in there was pretty thin, like someone put 520 in it, or, you know, God knows what. So with that, let's hit it. Made kind of a mess here on my garage floor, but nothing this old garage has never seen before, I'm sure. Jump up here. Turn our ignition on. Very nice quality. Okay. Cross your fingers. Oh, do I have enough hands to do all this here? Maybe it'll just pop off. Hey, we can take that. Get an idle out of it, maybe. Kind of. All right. I knew she wanted to live. I think she's going to be a runner. Water still all dripping out of the exhaust. Pretty cool. So we're doing way better than I thought we would on this thing, okay? We've had a lot of wins that are out of sheer luck or just because this old tractor wants to go. Normally, the clutch is seized, nothing works, you can't get it into gear. All that seems to work out okay. So this oil pressure item was like the last piece. Obviously, I should probably do something with the cooling system because it looks bad. But as far as good enough to take a maiden voyage, I think we're finally there. Man, there's nothing I like more than an old pile of garbage just running under its own power after it sat and got reined in and against all odds. I don't know. I've just always liked these Ford tractors, man. They're extremely resilient. Really ugly without the cover on it, though. Throttle here. Let's try it not in gear. of the deck apparently. Well, we were actually doing pretty good here until I snapped the lift chain. Get a look here. It's not like it's building any pressure. This radiator cap is ancient. We can get it off maybe. There we go. So, definitely needs the coolant flushed out. This has a crunchy feel to it, which is never good. It's probably a lot of garbage in this thing that needs to be drained. So we've done pretty good, gotten away with a lot of hackery at this point, but I don't want to destroy the thing. So I think with that, I'll get the coolant drained out and fix my lift chain deal. And then we'll take it through some really thick stuff and see what she does. So with that, my friends, thanks for coming along with me today on this little tractor revival adventure. I'm going to have a good time using this thing. It looks very promising, like it's going to ultimately work out. So super exciting. Honestly, I didn't expect that. So it's a win in my book. She's in for some pretty hard work for the rest of her life. I'm not too easy on stuff, but that's what it was built to do, and it's going back to it.